And now we will see the concept of inputs and outputs. If you see this node, on the left we have a square, and on the right we have a circle, where the square indicates the input and the circle indicates the output. So, for example, a certain node could have several, one or many inputs. Could have 1, 2, 3, or as many as you want, and could have no. If the workflow ends here, then there is nowhere. This output goes nowhere, which is the case of this exercise, the workflow that we did before, or it could go to another node, right? Or to several nodes. Okay, could be going to 1, 2, 3, or as many as we can imagine about. For example, what could happen in this case? In this case, if we received data from the first input, it would go through here, this node would execute, and then this node would send the output to the 3 nodes at the same time. Okay? If we receive data from this input, the same, would go here, and then it would emit the output to the three nodes, and the same with the third one. It's very rare that the 3 nodes would emit the data at the same time. In case that could not be the case, because once one trigger starts, then the whole workflow is executed. So it could not be possible. But just take into account that if you see some sort of pattern like this, it's not an error. It means that this node will react to any and all of these triggers, and will emit an output to these 3 nodes at the same time. Okay? Then this could, for example, I don't know. We will see like more complicated patterns and logics. Not now, because now the only purpose is to begin to get familiar with all of this, right? And but yeah, all these structures are, of course, possible. We will use examples later on where you will see that this is necessary, that sometimes we need to create this sort of structures of how the data goes in one direction and another direction. Okay, how do we see inside the node an input and an output? I'll double click and I'll execute this node again. Oh, I need to receive a no binary data exists on the edge. Ah, yes, you remember this one needed a binary, and yeah, one moment, let me create a. Okay, let's try again. Nice. Now look at this. Look at this. Was the first trigger to detect the Gmail. Okay, it sended one item to the 3 of the workflows. And since this, to the node, sorry, I was confused. Since each one of these nodes, is not doing anything, it's passing the data to the next node. Okay, but look at the green colors indicate us that there was some action. And when you say that there is one item, what this item refers, it's to this structure of data. Where can we find the structure of data? Here on the left, look at this, input. Okay, input and output. Okay, so the data that is coming, it's on the left side. Here in the middle is where we specify the actions or the parameters that we need, that this node needs to process the input data, and this is the output that will be passed to the next node, or nothing if it's the end. And but now what I want you to see is like we can see the data as a schema, right? As a table, and we can scroll it like this, as a JSON object, and as a binary. Well, binaries only in the case that this input has some sort of file that attached, PDF, image, doc, whatever. If there is no file attached, you will not see any binary. Okay, so remember, if there is no binary, it means that there is no file attached. If there is binary, there is a file attached. Okay, if you click here, you can download the file and you can view it, right? And here you have data related to the file. For example, file size, type of file, extension, name of the file. And then these three, schema, table, and JSON, they are exactly the same thing, but presented in a different manner. Okay, for example, look at this, ID, right? If we put a table, ID, this is the same ID, okay? And if you see it as in a schema, we have here the ID, okay? Which one is better? I don't have any answer, okay? Whatever you feel more comfortable with. Table, perhaps, if it's too much data, it's not very practical because you need to be scrolling. Schema, it's perhaps the most clear, but JSON for programmers might be the most familiar. Like I'll make it next video. I'll talk about JSON data. In case you never heard of JSON, I will explain. But for programmers, this might be the most clear way to see the data. For a non-programmer, this might be the best, or perhaps the table. If you're most used to working with tables, the table. But remember, it's exactly the same data, okay? The same in the output. Look at this. The binary, we're not really doing anything with the binary because we're not really passing it to the next to the output. So I have only table and JSON. Why don't I have the schema? Because the schema, it's very useful to do this. Okay, it's very useful to do this kind of things. If you, for example, want to move the ID, instead of, the best way to do it is like this. You see the hand, you click, pound, and now that property has been pasted in this input. We'll see more examples, don't worry. But the reason why you don't see it on the right is because you don't need to do the drag and drop. So the schema is more convenient to perform this kind of actions that now make no sense for you, but don't worry because we will explore all of this. Okay, so that's it. Input from this video, input, output, binary is when there are files, and table, JSON, schema is exactly the same data, but viewed in different ways.